Joining me now to talk a bit more about this unholy alliance of radical Islamists, radical leftists, are my good friends, Jamie Glazov, author of United in Hate, and the executive director of Christians United for Israel, CUFI, David Brog. Gentlemen, welcome.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Honor to have you guys. You guys are both doing cutting-edge work on this subject matter.
Appreciate it. And let me just add, by the way, at that protest, as the protesters were leaving and walking out on you, I was so impressed with what you did. As they left, you said to them, "God bless you," repeatedly, "God bless you." And I thought that underscored beautifully the difference between our Judeo-Christian heritage and the Islamist worldview they embrace.
Sure.
And that is crucial to bring up at every point.
There is.
Love, love, love.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, the other side all too often is bereft of that. And Jamie, you wrote about this eloquently in your book, United in Hate. I mean, this is, you see Castro and Ahmadinejad on the cover, and you know you got something juicy here. They're on the cover together. So, subtitle, The Left's Romance with Tyranny and Terror. In my monologue, I ran down a few reasons why I think the Islamist and the leftist work together. What's your take on this unholy alliance?
Eric, let me crystallize this perhaps starting with a religious theme, because there's some religious themes here. Hebrews 13:3, remember those in prison as though you are in prison with them, and suffering as though they were suffering. That's what a lot of the premise of my life is based on. My parents were Russian dissidents in the Soviet Union. We suffered tremendous persecution there. Millions of my people butchered. And the left here in this society tried to push them into invisibility and made excuses for that totalitarian regime. Let me say this very quickly in the terror war today. Fakhar Yunus. Why is that name not known? Trayvon Martin's name is known. Fakhar Yunus, a Pakistani woman, just jumped off a balcony in Rome in March. Her face disfigured by acid. She lived like that for 10 years. Her Pakistani husband poured acid on her face in Pakistan because she wouldn't suffer his physical abuse anymore. The underpinnings of Islamic misogyny, of Islamic gender apartheid caused that to happen, forced his hand. Where are the women's studies departments? Where's the Western left standing up for Fakhar Yunus? Why is her name not known? David Horowitz, what a hero. He's standing up for Muslim women, Arab women being persecuted and killed and mutilated. Why isn't he considered a hero? Why is he being slandered? Why is he being slandered by the left instead of being praised? And there should be a standing ovation for David among the Western leftists and among the academic left.
So why isn't he getting it?
So let me say this, that if the left was going to admit the victims, if they were going to admit the name of Fakhar Yunus, they would be admitting that there's an evil adversary, that there's an adversary culture. If they admitted that, they would have to admit and concede that our society is superior, that Western civilization is superior. In order to do that, they would have to admit that our society is worth defending and protecting. They can't do it because their aim is to destroy this society. So therefore, they're in league with those who want to destroy us as well.
And moral relativism till the bitter end.
Absolutely. So they must push the victims of totalitarianism into invisibility. And I take that very personally because they did it to my family and to millions of my people in the former Soviet Union.
That's right. And David, I mean, at CUFI events, and this was a CUFI event that I spoke at, how often do you see the most radical leftists and kind of radical Islamist types together? Is this kind of a frequent occurrence, protesting CUFI events? Or?
Unfortunately, it is a frequent occurrence. I've been protested, and I'm a heck of a lot of a nicer guy than you are. and it's common, and I think Jamie touched on it, which is for their worldview to be maintained, the victims of totalitarianism have to be pushed to the sidelines, and the victims of Islamic terror have to be pushed to the sidelines. And therefore, the cause of Israel is right in the crosshairs. If Israel's cause is just, their worldview is challenged. Let me add this. I think the tip of the spear is this unholy alliance of the radical left and Islamists. But I think they're a minority today on our college campuses. I think they're a minority in the country. Why are we losing the argument? Why is Israel losing the argument? Why is America losing the argument? I think the problem is because there is an audience receptive to this message. They're receptive because they have a primarily liberal worldview. And this gets to the core distinction between liberals and conservatives. their worldview says there is no such thing as evil. If there's no such thing as evil, and people are really mad at Israel and really mad at America, it must be Israel's fault somehow, somewhere. It must be America's fault. Yeah. And any time you stand up for the justice of Israel's cause, for the justice of our cause, you challenge that fundamental worldview.
Yeah, I have to mention you address these themes too in your book, In Defense of Faith, which is a great read.
Yeah, I get into it very clearly because I'm afraid a generation has lost track of the source of their own goodness. Yeah. If you value human life, if you feel sympathy for someone far away, the way Jamie was talking about a Pakistani woman, it's only because you're familiar with a book called the Bible, or you live in a civilization that has taught you the values of that Bible. Generations have forgotten where these values come from in the first place.
That's right, Jamie.
Here's what I want to say, and what I'm getting really sick and tired of, and what I'm very passionate about, is the names that you're called, the names that I'm called, the names that heroes like David Horowitz and Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer. Here's what I want to say. Am I an Islamophobe? Do I hate Muslims? I'm on the side of Muslims being persecuted. David Horowitz right now organizing panels on Islamic gender apartheid, trying to focus on the victims. We care about Islamic women. I care about Aqsa Parvez, a 16-year-old girl that was suffocated by her father because she wouldn't wear a veil. I've had sleepless nights over this for years, trying to save the victims of female genital mutilation and forced marriage and honor killings. We're on the side of Muslim women. We're on the side of Arab women, and yet they call us racists. But what are they doing on behalf of those women? How can they call us racist when we're the ones that care about Muslims and about Arab women and about all persecuted people under that ideology? So this is really twisted, that they're just turning the whole world on its head and calling the heroes these terrible names when in fact they're the heartless ones.
What do you make of the way they group America and Israel together, Jamie? You know, in my monologue I said America and Israel stand for some similar principles. David, you touched on it, the Ten Commandments, the Bible. What do you think of the left and Islamist kind of grouping America and Israel together?
Well, absolutely. They hate freedom. They hate the concept of the individual. They hate liberty, and they hate virtue. And overall, they hate the beauty of life. And in my opinion, after everything that I've studied, that beauty is represented by female beauty, by women's beauty, and that's why Islamic gender apartheid wants to cover women's faces and mutilates them and pours acid on their faces, because women's beauty is the incarnation of God's beauty on this earth.
And the feminists are silent about this,
and they're silent. And this is the thing, and I will say that I'm also very passionate about this because I came here as a little boy from the Soviet Union, and I love this country. And I will kiss the ground here today if you would ask me to, because I love the United States of America, and I resent those that want to transform the most beautiful country in the world and slander it. And of course, the same goes for Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. And you would think that those supporting gay rights, women's rights, all minority rights would be on the side of Israel.
Yeah, David, we have about 20 seconds.
Well, I just want to echo what Jamie said. You know, while Jamie's family was suffering in the Soviet Union, I was growing up here in the freedom of America. And I was taught the Soviet Union was not an evil government, it was just a different government. It took a great leader like Reagan to say it was an evil government, and where did he say it? He said it in front of a meeting of the National Association of Evangelicals, because at the end of the day, people connected to the Bible through their Christian or Jewish faith are receptive to the idea that there is such a thing as evil. Without that, we could never prevail over our opponents.
Spoken beautifully. David Brog, Executive Director of CUFI, author of In Defense of Faith. Jamie Glazov, author of United in Hate. Great to have you guys. We'll do it again.